The Man Who Watches Me Sleep. Chapter 1. The move-in. The first time I saw the man was the night after I moved into my new apartment. I was exhausted. A full day of unpacking, arranging furniture, and battling the chaos of cardboard boxes had left me aching and numb. The apartment was modest, but clean. It had that sterile smell of newly painted walls and old memories scrubbed clean. I chose it because it was cheap, and because the landlord didn't ask too many questions. I remember collapsing into bed, half-dressed, the glow of the city filtering through dusty blinds. My eyes fluttered shut almost instantly. But sometime past midnight, I woke up. Not abruptly, no loud noises, no dreams. Just awareness. A deep sense that I wasn't alone. I didn't move at first. I lay there, letting my eyes adjust to the darkness. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of old wood expanding with the cool night air. Then I saw him. He stood in the corner of the room, next to the closet door. His form was vague, tall and thin, more silhouette than solid figure. But I could feel him. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He just stood there, watching. A jolt of fear ran through me, but I forced myself to blink. Maybe I was still dreaming. I reached for my phone on the nightstand and turned on the flashlight. The corner was empty. Chapter 2. Denial. The next morning, I convinced myself it had been a trick of the light. Sleep paralysis. An overworked imagination. Moving stress. I laughed about it over coffee, trying to shake the feeling that something had shifted in the air of my bedroom. That night, I even left the closet light on. But at exactly 2:37 a.m., I woke up again. He was there. Closer this time. Standing at the foot of my bed. Chapter 3. Closer. My breath caught in my throat. He wasn't just a shape anymore, he had features, or the beginnings of them. A pale face, blurred as if underwater, and two eyes that didn't reflect any light. They weren't glowing. They were dead. Like marbles. I couldn't move. My limbs felt like they were underwater, my chest heavy, as if some force pressed down on me. I blinked hard, whispering, wake up, over and over. But I was awake. I could hear the sirens 2 blocks away. I could feel the fabric of the blanket under my fingers. And I could hear him breathing now. Shallow. Ragged. He leaned forward. I shut my eyes and screamed. When I opened them, he was gone. Chapter 4. Research. Over the next few days, I barely slept. I kept lights on. Burned through candles and coffee. I searched online for explanations. Sleep paralysis. Night terrors. Hypnagogic hallucinations. But I wasn't hallucinating. I started leaving my phone camera running at night, propped on my dresser. I reviewed the footage each morning. For 3 nights, there was nothing. No shadows. No shapes. But on the 4th, at 2:37 a.m., the video glitched. Just for 2 seconds. The frame distorted, like static. And in that brief distortion, I saw him. A tall figure. Standing inches from my bed. I paused the footage. My finger trembled. His face was turned toward the camera. He was smiling. Chapter 5. The woman upstairs. My neighbor upstairs was an old woman named Clara. I'd only heard her once before, her cane thumping softly on the ceiling as she shuffled across her floor. After the footage, I knocked on her door. She opened it with cautious eyes. Behind her, the apartment was dim and filled with the smell of incense. "Do you know anything," I asked carefully, "about the man who watches people sleep?" Her eyes darkened. She didn't ask who I was. Didn't call me crazy. She just said, "You've seen him, then." I swallowed. "Who is he?" She hesitated. "He's not a man. Not anymore." Chapter 6, The Whispering Ones. Clara let me inside. She poured tea with trembling hands and lit another stick of incense. "He came to me when I was young," she said. "In this same building. He watched my sister first. Then me." She pulled a box from under a side table. Inside were dozens of yellowed pages, handwritten notes, drawings, burned corners, old photos. "He feeds on fear," she said. "And on attention. The more you notice him, the more real he becomes. The more power he gains." I flipped through a journal. One page had a sketch of a bedroom, my bedroom. The window. The bed. The same shadowed figure standing at the foot of it. "Why does he come?" I asked. "To remind us," Clara said softly, "that sleep is not a safe place." Chapter 7, Patterns in the Dark. That night, I tried not to look at the corners of the room. I buried my head under the covers like a child. At 3:08 a.m., I heard something. A scrape. Like nails dragging down the wall. I didn't look. But then I heard my name. Whispered from the direction of my closet. Soft. Measured. I'm getting closer. Chapter 8, Obsession. I stopped going to work. I spent days mapping out everything Clara had shown me. I cross-referenced sleep demon folklore, shadow people, even Vatican exorcism records. There were others who'd seen him. From 1972, 1986, 2003. They all described the same figure. Some called him the Watcher. Others, the Night Guest. The most consistent detail? They all died within 3 months of seeing him. Most in their sleep. Chapter 9, The Eyes Open. I couldn't stay in the apartment anymore. I checked into a hotel, a bright, modern room with no shadows. No corners. No memories. The first night, I slept. Deeply. Peacefully. Until 2:46 a.m. When I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. I hadn't heard a sound. I hadn't dreamed. But something had changed. I turned on the lamp. There, on the pillow beside me, was a single black feather. I don't own any birds. And I didn't bring anything with me. Chapter 10, Sleep Study. Desperate, I enrolled in a university sleep study. They strapped sensors to my head and monitored my brain activity overnight. The researchers saw nothing on the cameras. No movement. But the EEG readings spiked at 3:12 a.m. The researchers said it was impossible. I went into a state similar to REM, but my heart rate flatlined for 4 seconds. When I came to, I remembered only this, a pair of eyes, inches from mine, whispering, "Now I live in you." Chapter 11, Clara's Fate. When I returned to the apartment for my things, I found the building roped off. Clara had died. Heart failure, they said. But the officer at the scene told me something strange. There was a word scratched into her bedroom wall, he said. Over and over again. Like she'd carved it with her fingernails. What word? He hesitated. Awake. Chapter 12, I don't sleep anymore. It's been a month. I don't sleep. I've taken up coffee like a religion. Cold showers. Loud music. Bright lights. But sometimes, I blink. Or close my eyes for just a second. And he's there. Closer each time. The doctors say I'll die of exhaustion. That sleep is essential. But I know better. Sleep is his door. And I will not open it again. Chapter 13, The Ticking Silence. I began sleeping with white noise playing beside me, hoping the sound of rain or waves would drown out whatever subconscious pull had awakened me each night. But even the fake ocean couldn't mask the ticking. It started low, like the winding of a grandfather clock. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. At first, I thought it was in my head. Then I realized something far worse: it was synchronized with my breath. The ticking stopped when I held my breath, and resumed when I exhaled. This thing, this watcher, wasn't just in the room anymore. It was inside me, syncing with my rhythms, learning me. Watching had turned into studying. Chapter 14, Letters in the wall. Scratching noises began behind my headboard. One night, in a desperate act, I moved the bed and ripped off a loose wooden panel. Behind it, I found layers of parchment, aged and yellowed. Letters. Some in French, others in Latin, but all spoke of the same thing: the sleepless man comes when eyes are closed. He does not knock, for he already owns the night. To dream under his shadow is to never wake whole again. Who had hidden these here? Had others known him before me? Then came the signature. Benedict Arlo, 1923. That was the name of the tenant who vanished almost a century ago, the same one the landlord had said left in the night and never returned. Chapter 15, Audio evidence. I set up a voice-activated recorder and left it running while I pretended to sleep. When I played it back the next morning, it was full of static. Until 3:07 a.m. Then came the sound of breathing. Not mine. This breathing was deep, labored, and unnaturally slow, like something sleeping too deeply, or pretending to. Then a whisper, "Why do you fight it?" I froze. Replaying it, I heard the whisper again, closer to the mic, almost like a smirk in sound. "You sleep. For me now." Chapter 16, The Sleep Clinic. Terrified, I checked into a sleep study center. I needed proof. I needed someone else to see it. Wired up with electrodes and watched behind glass, I was assured that nothing could happen without being recorded. That night, I fell asleep easier than expected, almost as if he knew he had an audience. I woke up screaming. The staff rushed in, but they were pale, stunned. The lead technician pointed to the monitor. "You weren't alone in the room." For 7 minutes, the system registered a second breathing pattern. But no one was visible. I looked at the footage. The blanket rose as if two bodies were beneath it. But there was no second body. Only mine, and a shadow above me, sinking closer. Chapter 17, The Whisper Network. Desperate, I posted online. Reddit, dark forums, hidden Discord servers. I didn't care who judged me. I described the man, the watching, the ticking breath, the voice. To my surprise, replies flooded in. People from Turkey, Argentina, Germany, even Japan, all describing the same figure. They called him different names: L'Dormeur der Natlichen Man, the sleeper's warden, Il Guardiano del Sogno, but they all feared the same thing: he comes only when you try to heal through sleep. Resting was his doorway. Dreaming was his dominion. Chapter 18, Possession of the Mind. Soon, my thoughts were no longer private. I'd be in the shower and hear my own thoughts spoken aloud behind me in a guttural, misaligned version of my voice. "You shouldn't be awake." At the grocery store, every third person looked at me with black eyes. I blinked, and they were normal again. I stopped dreaming, but somehow remembered visions anyway, ones I didn't live through. Like memories inserted in my head. An old room with stone walls. A metal crib. Whispers in Latin. It was as if I was dreaming his dreams now. Or worse, reliving his memories. Chapter 19, The Monastery Files. An ex-priest from an online forum contacted me privately. He had left the church after investigating a similar case in 1982. A 14-year-old girl claimed to be watched in her sleep. She drew the same man I'd seen, featureless, yet haunting. He shared something chilling, a page from a forbidden Vatican archive. A single phrase, scrawled over and over, "He who watches becomes what you fear most." This was never just about dreams. It was about ownership. The man watching wasn't content with your nights. He wanted your being. Chapter 20, the final visit I prepared for the last night. Salt circles, mirror covered, doors locked. But it didn't matter. At 3:06 a.m., I felt a shift in the room's pressure. My breathing stopped. Not from fear, from external force. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. Then I heard it, not a whisper this time, but a breath right beside me. Warm. Real. The words came next, so close they vibrated in my skull. "You are the window now. I only watched. Until you opened the door." I blacked out. When I awoke, my house was silent. Peaceful, even. But my reflection blinked 3 seconds late. Chapter 21, the return. I couldn't remember how long I'd been out. When I finally regained control of my body, I saw the most terrifying thing I could imagine, my own reflection, standing in front of me. It was no longer me. It was him. He looked like me, but the eyes were wrong, the posture was wrong. There was something deeply wrong about it. The shadow that had once simply watched now took me. It had fully entered, taken form in my reflection. Chapter 22, the awakening. Days passed. I would wake up, but the world didn't feel real anymore. The air around me felt thick, oppressive, as though something was smothering the very essence of the room. It started when I passed a mirror and saw my reflection smile at me. It wasn't the mirror image of my face anymore. I saw something in it, an evil presence, mocking me, knowing me more than I ever had known myself. I wasn't just the observer anymore. I was the observed. Chapter 23, the shadows claim. I went to sleep one final time, expecting the same nightmares that had come to define my nights. Instead, I woke up in a different place. I was no longer in my bed. The place was dark and cold. The walls were bare stone, and flickering candlelight gave a ghostly hue to the room. I recognized it at once. It was the same room I'd seen in my fragmented dreams, the stone walls, the crib, and the whispers. The shadow was not just in my room. It was everywhere now. Chapter 24, the forgotten room. In the corner, an old book lay on the ground. I opened it with trembling hands, and as I turned the pages, a cold dread washed over me. The words were written in Latin, a language I didn't know, but somehow I understood them. He who watches, becomes the watched. He who dreams, loses his soul. I read more, finding a reference to the old monastery that had once housed the being I had become entwined with. There was a cryptic warning: the dreamer becomes the watched. The watcher becomes the dreamer. This was the final piece of the puzzle. I had been tricked. In the endless loop of watching, I had become part of the darkness, forever linked to the entity that preyed on the souls of the innocent. Chapter 25, the final hour. I began to hear a familiar ticking sound once again, louder this time. It wasn't my breath that synchronized with it anymore, but the very heartbeat of the room itself. I could feel the presence of the shadow, no longer watching from afar, but pressing against my soul, pulling me into the very core of its being. And then, I understood. I was now the one who would watch. My soul had been bound to the shadow, and now, as my last moments slipped away, I would inherit its curse. The new watcher. I now stand in the darkness, just as he once did. The cycle continues. Night after night, I watch as others sleep, waiting for the moment when the next soul becomes entwined with mine. When they wake, I will be there.